Well, good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to everyone who's joined us online. Warm being the operative word. We're melting here in the UK. I think everybody else is in Europe. Anyway, thank you very much for joining. We're really excited to be able to share some information with you, primarily around the S series specifications themselves and also ITC Infotech's solution. So this is based on PTC Windchill platform. Now, next slide. My name is Susan Chapman. I'm based in the Arbortext business unit within PTC. We take care of service documentation. Today, I'm going to be joined by my colleague, Jerome Padilla, as well as some S-Series specification experts from our partner, ITC Infotech, Andrew Simpson, Sheil Hubsch, and Noel Saloom. Now, we will be recording this session, so everybody is on mute. We would welcome you all to please enter in any questions you have into the chat. Next slide, please. Now, back in February this year, ITC launched the S1000D module of their solution. And this is really focused on the authoring and management of that content. But in this session, we're actually going to extend that conversation to be the logistics support analysis focus and how that can help companies achieve digital continuity and really drive that S1000D content or data from that process. We're then going to touch on AI strategy, both from PTC platform perspective, but also from the S1000D processes. We will try to address your questions and answers throughout the session through the chat, or maybe at the end if time permits. And then we will conclude with a wrap up and some information about a very exciting in-person, invite-only exchange event in September. So really, without further ado, I'd like to, next slide, please, Johan, go into the S1000D series specification, what that really means in reality for companies. And we feel that the best way to do that is to show you a little video.
So, what happens after a product design is finalized? Let's dig into its 30-year journey. For the design engineer, hey, the job's done. But for logistics, it's really just getting started. The engineer asks about S3000L. Well, that's where this whole 30-year support plan begins. Think of it as the master plan, the blueprint for keeping a product running for its entire life. It takes all that raw engineering data and turns it into a real, actionable maintenance schedule. And what comes out of that? A detailed list of every single spare part you'll ever need. Okay, so that list of parts, that's the perfect handoff to the next step, the S2000M process. Write the parts standard. But how do we actually get those parts everywhere? That's S2000M. Think of this as the bridge. It connects the maintenance plan to the actual physical supply chain. I mean, without this, you've got a great plan, but absolutely no way to actually do it. Okay, so we've planned the work, stocked the parts, but what about the technician on the ground? And that's the final piece, S1000D. It's all about getting the right info to the end user. Now, this is the cool part. You're not starting from scratch. All that data just flows right in. The result? Manuals are accurate, linked to inventory, and they get published way, way faster. And here's the big aha moment for our engineer. It all really does start with their design data. Exactly. The logistics expert just nails it. No retyping, no mistakes, just a perfect flow of info. And that seamless flow from one standard to the next, that's the digital thread. So it makes you think, doesn't it? Your product's life is 30 years long. Is your data ready?
Okay, so that really was a tiny little teaser and a little bit of insight into that overall process. I'd like to hand over now to Noelle, who will walk you through a bit more detail around that digital continuity.
William, I'll take the screen share maybe.
Yes, please.
Let me know if you have it.
Yes,
It's good. Okay, perfect. So hello everyone. Again, as Susan mentioned, I'm Noel from ITCI. I'm happy to share with you the exciting stuff that we've been doing on the S series, and to kind of connect the dots to what you've seen in the video. I guess you've heard, not for the first time, the term digital thread, sometimes referenced as digital continuity in the space of everything that gets after the design, so in the service world. So when we go into the LSA, logistic support analyses, same as provisioning activities, all the way into technical publications. What we've noticed is that this is a term that was kind of abused and used too many times. This was from feedback from many customers that we worked with. And I wanted to start with this slide, especially to kind of point out the fact that this term is abused and tell you that what we're trying to show you is the application of a digital thread, not just the theory of it. But before we dive in, I would like us to consider 3 questions. These 3 questions will kind of help you be in the state of mind that will justify the big picture that the S-Series has adopted with the different specifications and standards it have, and then how this can apply into a use case that you would have and provide value. So these 3 questions are tackled in a way where the very first thing that any organization or any company would ask, how can we reduce the cost? How can we make things more efficient? And that is one of the things that the digital thread, especially the one provided by the S-Series, has a huge advantage. So considering the costs that you might have to generate technical publication to your customers, and considering all the different steps that you go through to get a very first draft of this technical publication, one thing to consider is how much effort you would put if there's anything that changes on the design side and you want to push this through and propagate it up until the documentation you send. The second question I would like to keep in mind is why is in 2026 many of the organizations and customers we worked with were still doing things in a manual fashion, and I say manual between quotation. What I mean by that is making everything through exchanging just Excel files, emails, and maybe a phone call in some instances where there's something that has changed. And second is also within this why is the effort only done between 2 separate silo teams and we will talk about these silo teams. They are the design and the technical publications. And lastly is what we will be showing you is the how, which is what we will be offering as a solution, let's say, to all of these legacy ways of working in the service space. And then the impacts of improving not only the quality of deliverables and the quality of the data that you're having and reusing information to the maximum, but also the user experience from within the interfaces that they will be working with. And that is something that we usually miss because we say that we accept the reality that in this space we use Excel and that's the whole story, full stop. So keep these in mind, and then let's jump into this little comparison between what I was referencing to as the legacy silos and the digital thread. So historically, before the S-Series existed and before we had the different specifications that evolved over the years, organizations worked in a way where you have a design team working on everything related to the engineering side of the preparation for a certain product, and then they would be the ones who would lead all the activities all the way to having engineering bill of materials, and then every specification around the design. And then somewhere in between, some people, and I'm saying it in a vague way specifically because there wasn't a team that is doing specifically provisioning. Sometimes there's no team who has specific duty to do logistic support analyses, and then we know that there is the tech pubs. And then all of this was made using tools such as documentation, exchanging emails, etc., as I've mentioned. Now, the digital thread is the approach where we say everything is going to be flowing down from the engineering all the way to the tech pubs, and then you will see that the story doesn't end in here because the actual process in the digital thread is a closed loop. And talking about the technical publication and why we always hear kind of a spotlight being put on technical publication teams or technical publication duties, because we know it's the front of what is delivered to customers, and we understand that this is the value. However, in the S series, technical publication, which is represented by the S1000D standard, does not sit on its own with the design. It's actually part of a bigger picture of the S series. As you can see in here, there are 6 standards, and in the middle of them, there is this SX0002D, which is a common data module that is in here to make the specifications communicate together in a way that is seamless and smooth. And that's one of the huge benefits that in September we will be showing you, as pieces or different pieces of the puzzle that will be developed by different teams, they would be reinvested and reused and propagated and updated once instead of duplicating information. And what you will see in the offering of the windshield data modules that we have on the S series, you will notice that we are covering 3 out of 6. So the S3000 for the logistics support analyses, the S2000M for the provisioning management, and then the S1000D for the technical publications. One more word just to mention about these is that these different specifications are out of the box, usable, ready to use, ready to exchange data formats that are universal. And if you have any customer that at some point would request an S3000L deliverable, what the tools that we have are offering are 100% compliance with any of those 3 specifications. I have one more slide that I will go over very quickly. The point is not to get you into too many theoretical information, just to give you the bigger picture into what to expect from our modules, and then kind of zoom in into what we're covering on the 3 specifications that I mentioned, the S3000, 1000, and 2000. So if we imagine that there's kind of a flow or a story that starts on the design side, usually the end product of the design teams is going to be the engineering bill of material, the EBOM, usually 3D information, so the CAD and the 3D, and metadata that goes with it coming from the design. I'm encapsulating everything related to failure modes and RCM information, so reliability-centered maintenance, that is kind of sitting between the design and the S3000L in this ecosystem. And then once the information goes into the S3000L, there is a connection that is very important, as the S3000L sits kind of in the middle of this whole process, where every logistics information analyses and identification made by these teams are at one side sent to provisioning teams, which are the S2000M, where they would send them logistics information, such as what are the spare parts and the resources needed in terms of maintaining a certain product in a certain context or a contract or a project. And then there is, on the other side, everything related to documenting maintenance tasks. When I mention maintenance tasks, is everything that you need to conduct on a certain product to keep it running as it should be, and respect the KPIs that you have set between you and your customers. And then all of these information are pushed into the S1000D, either having procedural data modules that are the documentation that details how to conduct a task, or IPDs that are illustrated parts data. Illustrated parts data, just a quick word, are the data module that will hold the exploded 2D view of any component or assembly, and then have the callouts referencing the table that says which part is which, and give the information about what are the interchangeable parts, etc., etc. And then you will see that in the bigger picture, there is in the S-series space, the S6000T, which says how do we define training needs for our technicians and engineers. And then you will see that the loop is closed by adding the feedback specification, the 5000, and then the preventive maintenance that feeds directly back into the design to enhance the design and then have less failures in the future. Again, that's just a bigger picture view so that you can understand where we are in this ecosystem. As mentioned, we cover these three modules or specifications. And what you should know, as the slide is showing, is that all of these are nothing but windshield modules. You should imagine them as nothing but information that sit within a windshield. If you know windshield PLM, you would imagine that it's the exact same interface. This data is just living in a different container in a different universe, and they can all access one another and be connected somehow to satisfy this process that I'm showing you. I will hand it over to Gilles. I keep sharing the screen, and then I'll. If you have any questions, again, I think we will have some dedicated time for afterwards. Please note them down or just drop them in the chat, and we can get back to that. Gilles.
Yeah, thank you, Noel. So what I wanted to highlight now is to share that our solution, as Noel explained, S1000D, S2000M, and S3000L modules, you can use them in two ways. And the first way is the silo mode, and the second way is the connected mode. So if we are starting with the silo mode, so in a solution with a silo mode, that would mean you are installing our module on a single server. So you can for sure modify the data, you can check if the data is valid against the standard, and you can also export the data in the format which is valid to the ISD. So that's the normal work of using the silo mode. But on that, we are including other capability in order to import the data from other organizations. For example, in the S3000 module, you can import the A-BOM in order to create your L-BOM or your S-BOM. In S2000M module, you can import the 3D model in order to create your 2D illustration for your catalogs. In S1000D, you are importing the S2000 data, for example, the figures, in order to generate the IPD and at the end to generate the PDF. So our standalone mode is not only the functionality to modify the data, but also to import the data. But on the other hand, you can also install all home modules on the single server. That would mean you can benefit of this functionality, but also concerning the connectivity of the modules. So you can imagine, for example, without having to export or to import any data, you can propagate the replacement of a part. So there is a modification on the E-BOM. What will be the impact on the S-BOM? What is the impact on the catalog and on your documentation? You can identify, for example, a modification on the 3D and what is the impact on the illustration. You can also identify, on the other side, there is an obsolete part. What would be the impact by modifying this part in my catalog? So without doing the modification on the engineering side, you know directly not only the impact, but also the workload to do this modification before starting the modification on the engineering side. So it's not only impacting your modification, but also identifying before doing something, the impact in the future for your information and your data. So another thing I would like to show you is the current process in S-series to create the data module from the E-BOM. And just to highlight the fact that there is a lot of export, import information. And what would be the advantage by using a connectivity solution? So for example, in this example, the story is starting from the E-BOM. So I'm starting from the E-BOM, and the S3000L team is reusing this E-BOM in order to create the L-BOM. So Noel, if you can just show you the video. So that would mean I exporting my E-BOM, I importing in my module S3000L in order to create this L-BOM, to identify the candidates, and at the end to create my L-BOM. From this L-BOM information and the candidates, I'm reusing that. I exporting the information to import that in S2000M module in order to add the information specifically to the figure to create the CSN, the ISN, and the illustration coming from the design. on the next step, I exporting this figure in order to create my IPD, so the data module in S1000D. So you will see, just to create the IPD, you need to do 3 export import. On the other side, if you want to continue the activity by creating the proceed data module, so the activity is starting on the S3000L side, they have to create the task, identifying the resources, and then with that, we are creating your tool, an object, and the name is this LSA proceed data module. That would mean it's a task in the S1000D representation. So we are using the task coming from S3000L, generating that in an S1000D module format, sorry, and from this format you can create the proceed data module. Again, you have to extract the task and re-import that in the module. So just to explain, in a process like this one, which is the normal process with the S series, you need to do at least 4 or 5 export import. With a connected environment or an integrated environment, that would mean that there is no import, no export. So you have the direct connection, and you can create the task and the LBOM directly from the EBOM without having to wait that the engineering team is exporting the information and re-importing that. So that's just an example of capability you can win in terms of time and quality by using an integrating solution. So to finish and to conclude, I just would like to highlight one thing. So this solution would breaks this technical barrier. So you have the capability to work together on the same solution, but that would not solve all the issues. You should know that the technology is one thing, but the organization is another thing. So clearly, this solution would open a real opportunity for you to rethink the process, but you have to readapt the process in a connected way. So I invite you to imagine what would be the impact of a solution like this one in your environment. In this short session, we did not have time to show you everything, so there is much more to see. So join us at the next meeting in September, beginning September, where we'll show you live demos, so with more interactive demos than only slides. So now I will over to my colleagues who will continue the presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah. I guess
Thank
it should
you,
be for
Gilles.
William or Susan. I
Yes,
give you the share screen. Yep.
I think,
You want me to share the screen? Or...
yeah, that's fine. So now I'm going to invite Jerome and Andy both to talk a little bit about the AI strategy and the work that they've been doing, both on the Windchill platform and also the S-series processes. Jerome.
Thank you, Susan. So hello, everyone. So Jérôme Padilla, working with Susan at PTC. So just this slide to show you that at PTC we try to bring AI through the whole product lifecycle, giving people, making people work a bit easier, trying to automate workflows. But these all through the whole lifecycle. We plan to bring AI among several pieces of, for instance, for designer to help them to design quicker by retrieving some already existing work on similar work and using some prompt and semantic search to find a way to build that design more efficiently. And this is also true for technical author, for instance, offering them the ability to automate at maximum their authoring workflow and so on. And this can bring you to think about several questions regarding the way you are working today. For instance, you can think about what areas of the product lifecycle do you see benefiting from AI the most, for instance. Or another one could be what products are you applying AI today, or do you plan to? So this can be interesting to think about this. Could you please go to the next slide, Susan, please? And this brings me to the architecture that we bring at PTC to support these AI technologies. These AI technology is built for the whole enterprise. So it includes the cloud platform services, which is provided by Atlas, our SaaS platform. And it offers tenant management, identity and access management, analytics, and also some collaboration. All of this is built on some public and private hosted AI services. This ensures availability, compliance, and security. And the open platform architecture supports agentic services and semantic search also, as well as knowledge graph and integration with third-party AI system. And all of this is all by an LLM that will bring us to provide you some powerful and future-ready platform for AI. And now we'll hand over to Andy for the specific DXP AI platform.
Thank you, Jerome. I'm Andy Simpson, a DXP consultant based in the UK, and I'd like to share with you some details of a prototype, emphasised in capital letters there, prototype S3000L AI capability currently being developed by DXP, and some of the strategy and thinking behind it. So to kick off, talk a little bit about the rationale and why S3000L processes are a good candidate for AI support. And it's the S3000L support analysis data is a very valuable business asset. It requires significant investment and effort to create and maintain. It's got complex structures and relationships, i.e. a lot of data features and facets, as well as often being embodied in a very large data set. It also sits at the intersection of structured data from many disciplines. You have engineering, data support policies, resource planning, change management processes, and each domain has its own idiom and required expertise. So this means that a lot of the value is not just in the data itself, because it's expensive to create and validate, but also in how that data is interpreted, compared, and connected across domains and reused across the whole support lifecycle. And this is, I think, where AI becomes interesting. AI brings very strong language and analytical capabilities. It can help interpret information. It can provide summaries across different dimensions, make comparisons, identify gaps and inconsistencies, and also assist users with understanding the impact of change, so change analysis, impact analysis. Now, S3000L itself, the solution generally sits inside, or the processes sit inside, a governed business system environment. And what I mean by that is it's instantiated within a system with strong policies and processes. And in this context, reliable and repeatable outcomes are essential. And with this known, raw AI capability is probably not enough, because AI is generally non-deterministic, i.e. you can ask the same thing in 3 different sessions and you'll get 3 different answers. But your business processes cannot be. They have to be reliable and repeatable. But these limitations can be mitigated through a suitable supporting framework. And so the DXP strategy is to make best use of AI's analytical capabilities, but inside a deterministic framework, integrated, in this case, into the LSA Windchill module. And this framework provides the context and controls to the AI, the rules of engagement, the logical flows, and awareness of the S3000L data structures and the configuration. And these provide the needed structure to complement the AI native features. So it's very much not just bolting a generic chatbot to the side of the process. It really is about making AI a fully integrated part of the solution with proper context awareness. And it's this context aware framework with the deterministic tools that make AI usable within that S3000L business process. Next slide, please. So I'm a consultant, and I've been around a while, been doing it for 15, 16 years now, and I'm specialised within aftermarket and service. And many engagements start with something that looks a bit like this, a set of business problems, which then become the basis of the solution. And this often leads to one of 2 places, or a combination of them, either an alignment to out-of-the-box capabilities, which often-wise neglect some of the business-specific needs, or a bunch of customizations which have their own inherent costs and risks. And in traditional solutions, it's fine, it's normal. The solution provider has to provide a set of features with the broadest utility for the market, which is good. The most people get the benefit from it, but in general, it's not specific to any individual customer needs. And with AI, things can be different. Can you just click the next slide, please? Thank you very much. So AI enables support for differentiated business needs. So we don't need to start with a pre-assumed or prescribed set of supported use cases with preset configurations, because AI can support you much more intelligently. Next slide. So to reframe or summarize this viewpoint, organizations demand the ability to differentiate. The challenges that you as an individual organization will be specific to your organization, likely very different from another organization's, even working within the same process or similar process and domain. And processes which might appear superficially similar between orgs often carry significant differences once you look more deeply. So off the peg approaches can be too generic. Out of the box can mean compromising on requirements, and this can mean a reduction in differentiators, i.e. what makes you, or you end up customizing, which comes with costs, both development and maintenance over time, and the technical risk. So the real value here with AI is not a fixed set of supported use cases. It's a solution native intelligence. So it's almost a paradigm shift. It's not, can AI perform a gap analysis or export a spreadsheet? It almost certainly can, but it's more to do with AI being a creative force to help solve business differentiated problems. Next slide. So we're getting closer to a short demonstration video. First, I just wanted to seed some of the concepts and features of the prototype framework, which can be thought of as a series of layers. So at the top, you have the user interacting with the AI agent through a natural language chat interface. So if you've ever used ChatGPT or Claude or these things, or even a helper chatbot, that kind of experience is how you interact with the system. You have an agent or agents, which you can think of as a persona taking on a particular role. And it's this that you're interacting with through the chat. And it's that then that interprets the task and actions and coordinates in accordance with its rules of engagement. And depending on the complexity or novelty of what's being asked, there may or may not then be a corresponding skill. And that can be thought of as a runbook for a specific use case. So it defines the process, the tools, the flow, the checks and balances to execute on a given task. If there is no skill, then the agent can access tools directly. And the tools are the deterministic or mechanical part of the framework. And it's these which interact directly with the APIs and the data in the system. So you can kind of think of these as providing the CRUD-like services, the API wrappers that work with the data. And then finally, you have the brain, which is the core memory. And this includes the global rules of engagement, context vocabulary, and importantly, it's part of the self-adapting mechanism. So it's continuously updated with lessons learned over cycles of interaction. So I'm going to play a short video now, which demonstrates the prototype solution. It should give a brief feel for the user experience of using the AI features, and it also outlines how the framework that I've just described is included as part of the Windchill object model. Please press play.
Excellent. Thank you, Andy, for that. That was very, very interesting. I think it's great to see ITC focus not just on the solution, the S1000, the S series tied in with S1000D, but actually focusing on the business processes within and trying to work out with our customers what are those business processes and use cases they need to be addressed or you'd like to have addressed through a much more efficient AI-driven solution. So I think it's really great things to come in the future. Keep your eyes peeled for further developments as ITC continues their investigations. Please put in any questions you have into the chat. I have actually received a couple of separate ones. I think the first one, Gilles, is probably for you, which is what version of the S1000D standard can be handled through this LSA solution?
So today the LSA solution, so firstly, in S series, the S3000L, there is 3 versions of this series, of the LSA, sorry, the version 1.1, 2.0 and 3.0. So the 3.0 is the last one, and this version exists since the end of last year. So today we are supporting 1.1 and 2.0. Normally at the end of the year, we support the 3.0 also. And concerning the interconnection, so we have the capability to generate data modules from LSA information. And today we are supporting the 4.1 in terms of S1000D and 4.2. And same thing, the S1000D module is supporting 4.1, 4.2. And for the end of the year, we will support the 5.0 also and the 2.3 also. And in terms of generation, the objective also end of the year will be to convert the LSA data into S1000D 5.0.
Perfect, thank you. One other question. You mentioned about the solution being siloed or all connected. One of the questions was, with LSA and S1000D, is there a recommended approach to do one before the other, or does it not matter?
No, normally you can manage separately and work together. The only thing you should know is to go from work together in separately is very easy, but to work together, you need to work and to identify what information will be shared on one side with the other one. So saying differently, it's not just I want to work together and that's all. You have also to identify how to work together. So we have a list of a process in terms of data that would be shared from one silo or one specification to the other one, and you should check if you are aligned concerning this information. So for example, if we are speaking about applicability, if S3000L is using applicability in a specific way and S1000 in other, that would not work. You need to be aligned in the way of managing applicability, for example.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, Johan, please. So really, it's just a quick wrap up of our session. I hope that this has really given you a good feel for the value that digital continuity and comprehensive strategy around S-Series can bring to an organization. We are planning an in-person exchange event. It'll take place in London on the 9th of September. It's a great opportunity really for companies to hear a lot more detail, engage in more detailed conversation with our experts and demonstrations, and also to network with other customers who are going through very similar S1000D strategy work. It will be a one-day event, so customers can fly in and depart or attend just for the day. For now, we would ask you to save the date. Keep an eye out for any updates and registration information that will come shortly. And we really look forward to seeing all our customers there for a really good event. It remains just to thank everybody for attending, presenters for presenting and sharing great information with us. And I wish you a great rest of your day. Thank you, everybody.